more than people realize. Just think of how we perceived things a couple games ago, right? And Stephen A. will do his Stephen A's list. And by the way, it's a fluid list, right, Stephen A.? You have to always say that because we all react to these things.
Correct.
There was a time earlier this year where it looked like here comes Aaron Rodgers, and he's just better than these other dudes, so he's going to win the MVP. Or like what Russell Wilson is doing, he's got it. And that or before Mahomes got hurt. Okay, it's Mahomes and the rest of the league. And now Lamar's had this amazing string, and he is solidly the favorite. He is the favorite to win. I'd put my money on him to win.
So would Vegas. Yeah. 90% chance to win right now.
I don't know if I wouldn't say 90, but they know better than me. Look.
I'd say 99%.
Jets at Browns and Steelers. So maybe the Steelers game winds up being a big game because Steelers are playing for their playoff lives or something like that. And, so there's some high leverage games there. But if Russell Wilson gets it together at Panthers, that haven't looked great recently, Cards, and then Niners at Seattle, like the last game of the season, if Russell Wilson is playing for something there, high profile against the Niners defense and balls out, and Lamar, maybe they've already wrapped it up. Maybe he takes the foot off. Who knows? But there's plenty of stuff that can happen in the next 3 games where Russell Wilson could leapfrog.
Well, first of all, here's where.
So I understand where Max is coming from with that. But the thing that crumbles his argument is that Lamar Jackson beat the Seattle Seahawks and he beat the San Francisco 49ers. So at this point, it doesn't really matter for me what Russell Wilson does if he beats the 49ers at the end of the year, because Lamar Jackson already beat both of those teams. So, I mean, I don't see how he cannot get the MVP. Granted, there's 3 more games left, and their toughest game is probably going to be against Pittsburgh. And like I said before, I understand because a lot of things can happen, but he's beat the majority of the MVP candidates. So he beat Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. He beat the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. He beat the Patriots, Tom Brady. He beat the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson. He beat the San Francisco 49ers with Garoppolo. He beat Pittsburgh. So, I mean, he's beat all the major teams and all the major MVP candidates. Granted, they lost against Kansas City. I can't remember if Patrick Mahomes was playing there or not. But, I mean, he's got it locked up. I mean, if he loses the rest of his games, that won't look too good. But he's already beat the toughest competition in the league. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
I think you're wrong, and I totally agree with you. I disagree with you. I think Lamar Jackson has it wrapped up. But I hear your arguments. But let me take all the stuff, all the ancillary stuff. First of all, you look at Aaron Rodgers. You see the way that Green Bay's offense has struggled where you're anticipating blowouts and they end up struggling, winning games by relatively low scores, considering what you expected of them. You look at Patrick Mahomes. 2 of the last 3 games, he threw for 200 yards. It wasn't, spectacular performances. Plus, I think he's going to be measured based off of what happened last year. 50 touchdowns, just 12 interceptions. He was so phenomenal last year that people are going to judge his drop-off this year, albeit to injury, the 21 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, but the 21 touchdowns as opposed to 50. Obviously, he'll throw a few more before the season ends, and they're going to look at it and measure it against that, and they're going to say, not the same. So there's going to be a drop-off. Then we get to Russell Wilson. You lost head-to-head to Lamar Jackson, okay? You didn't have a great game against Philly. You certainly didn't have a great game last night. So those are 3, even though they won 5 straight coming into last night before losing to the Rams, those 3 victories.
Memorable games.
Those 3 games, like I said, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and the Rams last night, I think they're going to resonate. And the last point to support Lamar Jackson is this. Do y'all know that in the last 5 games, Lamar Jackson hasn't even thrown for 250 yards? In the last 5 games, he hasn't.
But did he win, though? How many games did he win out of those 5, though?
Thrown for at least for 250 yards. He's thrown for over 200 just twice. The other 3 games, he hasn't even thrown for 200 yards, okay? But he rushes. He's got 1,017 yards rushing. They have the number 1 offense. They have the number 1 running attack. And he is the team's leading rusher. So in other words, if he's in the lead now, they're not measuring him because of how he's flinging that football 300, 350, 400 yards. They're measuring him by a different standard. So in order for Lamar Jackson to lose the MVP award, in my estimation, he can't run the football.
You guys
and we all.
No, I would not say that. I would say it's even worse because he's not even really he is throwing the rock. I think he has more pass touchdowns than anybody at this point. Don't quote me, but I think he's got more passing touchdowns than anybody. But that just makes it even worse because he's not. He claimed that he's not passing the rock and he's running around and doing all this other type of stuff. That means he's not even throwing the rock yet. So he's just being one-dimensional to you, Stephen A. Smith? So he hadn't even added another dimension of passing, according to you. So, I mean, he could be even more dangerous. So I would say that Lamar Jackson has it locked up. And like I said, you can kind of, I guess, gauge him, say that he doesn't pass the rock, even though I think he's got the most touchdowns passed. But that's just his game. And if they're winning, don't change it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. He may not be your prototypical passing quarterback or pocket passing quarterback. He can scramble and move around, and he can throw the rock. So, if they're going to, I think they're going to be judging him at the end of the day with those wins. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
And we all know he's going to run the football. The only way he would lose is if he makes no plays with his feet, he doesn't run the football, and he simply resorts to being a pocket passer for the final 3 games of the season, and he still doesn't do these numbers. That's not going to happen. Lamar Jackson's got it locked up.
You could argue he's the story of the season. Him.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you can say he's the story of the season because almost every other week it was a story for somebody else. I remember when it first started, it was Patrick Mahomes. What's Patrick Mahomes going to do? Then it was Aaron Rodgers. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is on fire. They're balling right now. Then it was Deshaun Watson. Houston Texans are balling out of control right now. Then it was Russell Wilson balling out of control right now. And then now it's Lamar Jackson balling out of control. It kind of flip-flops from week to week. There's been a lot of players that have been balling out of control, but it's pretty much how you end up. But like I said, Lamar Jackson, if Stephen A. Smith is implying that he's one-dimensional, all he really does is run, even though I'm pretty sure he's leading the league in touchdown passes, that just means he's even more dangerous. That means he can open up a whole nother dimension or throwing the rock, distributing the rock. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. They're still winning. And if he's not the perfect passing, the perfect pocket passing quarterback, and they're still winning, well, then keep doing what you're doing, Lamar Jackson. So let's continue.
Him and the Niners are the story.
Lamar Jackson is the story.
But also how strong the Niners have been, too. I think
to that point, Stephen A., his passer rating higher than all those guys we're talking about.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Max. You talk about the rest of the season. Lamar went through the gauntlet already. Mm-hmm. That's why I think he's clearly, like Vegas has him 90%, because it has been against the 49ers, the Pats, the Bills. We held their defense in high regard as well with what he was able to do.
Seahawks.
The Seahawks as well. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that creates, and that's why, everybody gravitates to First Take, because you know why? It's must watch. Lamar has that element, and let's not pretend that when we talking about MVP, that the must-watch factor is not a big part of the decision making, especially when we talk about media. So for like Pat Mahomes last year, must watch. We were giving Pat Mahomes, we were putting Pat Mahomes in the conversation of this guy will be the greatest to ever do it when it's over. Lamar is doing it in an unconventional way, which I think gives him a little bit more of an advantage because it's so unconventional, and people are like, look at this team. Not only that, the most important thing I think for his MVP run is the guys that's on his team. They literally vouching for him every single time they get in front of a camera. All of that is a culmination of why he's
Yeah, but would you really expect Lamar Jackson's teammates to not say that he's the best quarterback and that he shouldn't be MVP? Because if they said that he shouldn't be MVP and someone else should be, then that's a problem. That's a problem. So it's no surprise that Lamar Jackson's teammates would say that he should be the MVP. So let's continue.
I hear you. Listen, what we're really arguing about, I think you're both making good points. What we're really arguing about is what does locked up mean? What does it mean to lock something up, right?
Locked up means you knock out the competition, especially the guys that are supposed to be MVPs and the best teams in the league. Like I said, who hasn't he beat? Who hasn't he beat that you would think could go to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl? He beat the Patriots, beat San Francisco, beat Green Bay, beat Seattle. So he's taking everybody out of the division. NFC, where you want to go. He's been putting in work. So I don't know how he cannot be the MVP. He's taking care of the competition. So I don't know what more he needs to do. But let's continue.
And is that done already? And all I'm saying is this didn't happen yesterday. But a lot of this we're basing on right now, not your arguments, but the feeling we're getting that it's already over in terms of the MVP, is that Russell Wilson just last night, didn't come through with one of his better games at the same time that all. So if Russell Wilson, just redo that one game, and Russell Wilson balled out and beat the Niners, right? Like, what? Oh, excuse me, the Rams. The Rams. Just beat the Rams. Balled out and beat the Rams.
He did beat the Niners, by the way.
Right, he did beat the Niners. We would be thinking differently, be feeling differently about this. That's one game.
Yeah, but you're talking about hypothetical. He didn't beat them, though. That's the point. He didn't beat them. And again, it doesn't really matter what Russell Wilson does up to this point. I mean, it matters, but I mean, Lamar Jackson beat Russell Wilson, and he beat Jimmy Garoppolo. Those two guys. So it doesn't really matter what happens. It doesn't matter if Russell Wilson beat San Francisco in the last game. They both got beat by Lamar Jackson. So I don't see how that's a talking point with Russell Wilson. He got beat by Lamar Jackson. It's a done deal. So let's continue.
We would probably feel it was closer, but I still would feel like Lamar had a big lead.
But not just that. Here's the thing, Max. Again, when you look at the box office appeal, and then you take into account how clearly they're judging Lamar by a different standard, because similar to Michael Vick, but on an elevated level. The point is, Russell Wilson doesn't just have to win. He has to win, like he has to be so spectacular and so exceedingly better than Lamar Jackson over the last 3 weeks. And the Ravens have to be so considerably worse than the Seahawks over the last.
So I don't know if that's it. Like I said, I don't know what these voters are looking at or what they're gauging stuff by, but Lamar Jackson beat the Seattle Seahawks. So I don't see how, Russell Wilson could do anything more, even if he goes 3-0 with the next games and shuts out the 49ers in the last game. That doesn't take away that he still got beat by Lamar Jackson. So I don't see how this is a talking point of bringing up Russell Wilson. So I don't know. Let's continue.
That's what it is.
What makes it so hard is when you look at the schedule, do you think the Ravens are going to lose to the Jets or at Cleveland, right? You don't think that's going to happen, or even to the